Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Females Thriving Over 30 podcast. Today, I am by myself, and it was not planned. I was not supposed to be by myself. We we have been trying to have Jasmine joining me, but as you probably have heard in the previous episode, our welcome to season 7 episode, she has just moved house. She didn't have her Wi-Fi installed, so it's not been the easiest for her to be able to join today. So we are recording this in a weird order, right? Because we were supposed to have recorded last week, but I was really, really sick as well as Jasmine. So we had to postpone, and we were saying, okay, we're just going to film 2 episodes on the same day, the welcome to season 7 and our first episode with a guest for season 7 on the same day. And for the past 45 minutes, that's what we've been trying to do. We've been trying to record the welcome to the season 7 and it's not working. So she is getting Wi-Fi installed at her new house tomorrow. So I am filming the second episode on the 9th of June, and we're recording the very first episode on 10th of June. So it's going to be interesting. So what have I been up to in the last few days? I flew to Spain last week to help my parents with the move to their new house. So they bought a new apartment like about 2 years ago, and it's finally ready. They got the keys, they moved. So I went there to help a little bit with the move. And then I also as well to be able to see my family, celebrate my uncle's, my aunt and my uncle's birthdays, and to also see my nephew because I've missed him so much. You literally have no idea how hard it is to live in a different country, being far away from your family and feel like you're missing like very key moments. And even though thanks to technology, we're able to just, have video calls on WhatsApp, it's not the same. It's not the same. So I've really missed him. The last time that I had seen him before last week was Christmas. So it's been a while since I saw him. And it's one of the things that really, really, really makes my heart ache is missing all of the milestones and missing him growing up. And it's so interesting. I don't know if we have a lot of people listening to the podcast that might be in the same situation that I am, that you have emigrated to a different country and you've been here for a long time. You kind of like when you are in your new home country. So like when I'm here in the UK, I miss Spain so much, like miss it so much. Like it's like I need to move back. And obviously I miss my family, I miss the food, I miss the weather, I miss my friend, I missed everything. And then you fly back and then you're there. And it's kind of like you feel so out of place. It's like, what do you mean? Like this is my home, in the sense of like this is where I was born and where I was raised and where I spent most of my life in. But I don't know, it feels weird because when I'm thinking about it, I've been here for 12 years now. And it's just going to get to a point that it's just going to get closer to being the same amount of time in Spain that I have been here in the UK. And like here, I have dinner at like 5 p.m., 5:36, like between 5 and 6, right? In Spain, we don't have dinner until like 9 p.m. or so. And it's so hard to get used to that. And I just feel so like, am I Spanish, or am I more British now? What am I? I don't know. It's kind of like that type of identity crisis that happens when you are in one place and the other. It's just like you don't feel at home in any of both countries. It's such a weird feeling that I really hope I am not the only one that is feeling that way. So if you do, please let us know in the comments, because that would make me feel a little bit better. Apart from that, another reminder, if you haven't watched yet my TEDx, please make sure that you do and that you share with as many people as possible that you like the video, that you comment on it. I really want this to reach as many people as possible, and I really want it to have a high engagement. So I really, really, really need your help to get there. So make sure that you go to the description, you click the link to the YouTube video, and then you share it with everybody. Select like, and you add a comment, please. I really, really need your help to get the highest engagement possible. Now, changing topics, I am so excited about today's episode. We're going to be talking about high achieving women and why they find it difficult to kind of like stick to meal plans or have issues with meals, and in general, like these struggles that we have as high achieving women. And that's something that I have been thinking about for quite a while now, like how much my life has been, I don't know, was it like directed to doing certain things because of being a high achieving woman. And I feel like this episode might help a lot of us is something that I really, really need. So I am so excited to introduce you to our guest today. So we want to welcome to the podcast Casey Weiss today. She's a holistic nutritionist, and she helps women who feel stuck in cycles with food, starting over, overthinking everything, feeling out of control, to finally feel calm and consistent around it again. So as I said before, we're going to be talking today about why high achieving women feel like, issues with the food and how to kind of like stay on track. And I was saying, like, I'm really excited about this because I am one of those high achieving women, and I am one of those people that have the issues with sticking to plans. But before we get into the interview and start asking questions to Casey, can you introduce yourself for everybody and just tell a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much. I'm Casey. As you said, I'm a holistic nutritionist. After years and years of my own struggle with food, with dieting, overeating, I came to a breaking point and I explored intuitive eating, trying to listen to my body. But after having so many years of being dysregulated with food, just listening to my body wasn't working. And I sought out guidance with an intuitive eating counselor, and I was able to get more freedom with food, but I still wasn't more comfortable in my body. It wasn't until I worked with a holistic practitioner who really changed everything for me, allowed me to understand that I could honor my health while being interested in nutrition and implementing aspects of nutrition, but also honoring my body and allowing food to be a joy in life, but not the only joy. And by finding that peace with food and that connection with my body, it just opened up a whole new world for me. And with that, I ended up going back to get my own nutrition education. And I opened up my own practice, and it has grown and grown and grown. And I now help women all over the world to find peace with food, feel normal with food, be able to balance nutrition in a way that actually works for their lives and is sustainable.
Well, that literally like speaks to me so much, like your journey itself, because I have been there as well. Let's rewind a little bit. Um, we come from society where dieting was like a very big thing
Hmm. Hmm.
since we are very, very, very young, right? So it's just like you need to be super thin because the heroin chick look was a thing there.
Yeah.
So I feel like we've all been growing up with that type of relationship with food that has not been the healthiest. So um, let's talk about why do we feel like high achieving women have that much hard time to try to, like stick with a routine and food and
Hmm. Yeah, no, I really appreciate this question. And most of my women are like the type A high achieving perfectionist. And the thing is because as a, I don't really describe myself as that anymore, but definitely would have described myself in the past. There's a couple of things going on here. First of all, the way that you've achieved so much in your life is not the way that you need or you should be approaching food. So just trying harder, being more disciplined, doing more, that's not how it works with food. And it can be very hard to separate those two things. If anything, that makes more obsession with food and a more fraught relationship with it and just more struggle, more food noise. And another thing is that the same type of woman who is able to go, go, go and, work and with her family and all of that, a lot of times has that perfectionist mindset or that black and white thinking. And so it's like either good or bad versus food. I had a good day or a bad day. I can't tell you how many times I remember like going to bed at night, just like rehearsing what I had eaten and judging it, whether it was good or bad, and then thinking about exactly what I eat the next day and the amount of calories. And
Mm.
that is just the mindset that leads us to all or nothing, leads us to those spiral of like either dieting or not. And especially as women, growing up in a society, it's like being a good girl, right? And
Mhm.
we grew up always looking to others to
Yeah.
give us a sense of whether or not we were good or not. We had our grades in school telling us whether or not we were good, our teachers, our parents. And so then we finally get out of, that state and get at such a loss. And so we're looking for like, what is the next rule book that we can follow? And so we are really susceptible to therefore dieting because it gives us a sense of
Mm.
rules, and that sense of structure feels comforting. But what ends up happening is it's too rich. It like works until it doesn't. And so I say, if it really did work, then you wouldn't be getting on and off that treadmill over and
Yeah.
over. But also, it leads us to feel like we really failed because we're like, how, I can't do this. Other people could do this. And again, it leads down that roller coaster. But the way you approach food is and should be different than the way that you approach the other things that you've achieved in life. Um, but we're not taught that. And so as a result, we just keep blaming ourselves. And these high achieving women keep being like, I'm the one, I should figure it out by myself. Again, I was one of those like, I should pay someone. I should figure this out myself. And we dig ourselves a deeper, deeper hole.
Deeper hole. Oh, yeah.
um, and it wasn't until I invested in someone that everything honestly really changed for me.
It's very interesting what you just said in terms of like the way that we approach life and we approach other things. That's how we are approaching food. Um, because I always thought the reason why I was doing this is because at some point in my life I was a bodybuilder. So
Mm-hmm.
obviously I had like a very strict regime, and I don't think right now I will be able to do it. I was
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
very structured, very, but I was like, that was like kind of like my late 20s.
Yeah.
Now it's a little bit different. And I thought the reason why now I was just like, "Oh, I forgot to have a snack. I forgot to have this. I forgot to have that. Like my nutrition is all over the place. This is horrible." I thought it
Yeah.
was because of bodybuilding, but it's not. It's because like that's the way that I approach my life in general. Like I have my schedule. I have to do certain things, these
Mm-hmm.
things to be in certain order. And it's exactly the same thing with food.
And it's like basically again the way that you have approached other aspects of your life, and again that rigidity, that routine, and also what can be really very much of a struggle is so many people will say like, well, it worked for me, like it worked for me
Mm.
because I did this, but then again, going on keto and having it work because you lost 30 pounds in 3 months, but then you went back on, that's not working because then you yo-yoed
Uh-huh.
back. Like working is when something is truly sustainable.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've done that. I've done the keto diet. But yeah, those things don't last. And then you rebound really fast because
Mm-hmm.
we are not really taught, as you said, like how to eat for ourselves without, I guess, like getting certain things in place, and you rebound.
Exactly.
And I guess you get into those type of yo-yo diets, right? That we've
Mm-hmm.
been on over and over and over again. So how do we get out of that wheel?
Mm-hmm. So, first of all, we need to have awareness because once you're aware, then that allows us to have change. A lot of times, so can be so difficult because it's very much ingrained within our own head, right? It's like
Mm.
this me versus me problem. And so, having someone to help to really provide more of a bird's eye view. But it starts with really making sure you're giving yourself enough food, first of all, because even though it can be uncomfortable, because you're like, I want to jump straight into weight loss. If you're not giving yourself enough food first, your body's going to always be in scarcity mode and searching for safety. And when your body doesn't feel safe, it's not going to be able to commit to healthy eating behaviors. It's not going to be able to release excess weight. It's not going to be able to turn to things other than food when it's wanting to emotionally cope. So we need to give ourselves enough food. That means having real meals with protein, fat, and fiber-rich carbohydrates. And when we can focus on having real meals, 3 meals a day and 1 to 2 snacks, our body can have that consistency and again, that feeling of safety. And really from there, working on our relationship with food and noticing our preconceived notions and our thoughts with it. So, are we finding ourselves constantly labeling foods as good versus bad? Are we
Mhm.
constantly in this back and forth tug of war with food and our body? And what are the things that we're noticing? The first is really the noticing and the awareness phase. And from there, we can build upon that. I highly encourage people to do a food mood journal. So many people are like,
Okay.
okay, I'm going to diet on a journey. I'm just going to put into MyFitnessPal, right? I'm eating.
Yeah.
Now, what I really want you to do actually is for you to do a food mood journal, which what that means is you can write what you eat loosely, but write, how hungry you were before you started and what you were feeling for and like what the actual environment was, because that can really start to illuminate patterns. And if we can do that for the course of at least like 3 days, it can really help to start to show us the reasons why we may have been triggered to eat in certain ways, the behaviors and the patterns, and so that you can actually make change and realize on your own, like, wait, I'm realizing every day at 5 when I'm feeling anxious or when I'm feeling tired is when I turn to the snack. Or, it's like clockwork every other day. It's 9 p.m. The kids are in bed or whoever, whatever it might be. And I'm noticing that I am eating like way more chocolate than I want to. But
Mhm.
we need to really approach this with curiosity versus judgment, because judgment is what has kept us stuck for far too long. And it's the curiosity piece, allowing ourselves to get curious about why this may be, that allows us to actually make change.
I'm gonna start doing that actually because I exactly do that. Like, oh, I need to track my food and see what I'm eating, and I go to my fitness pal.
Yep.
Exactly. That's what I said. Like, yeah, yeah, that's what I do. When you were talking about it, I started thinking, you know what? Like when we were growing up, we had those magazines that were telling us like how we need to look, and we have like obviously like some people comments out there regarding our
Hmm.
look and all of that. And I just feel like now is even getting bigger because now we need to eat a certain way, but also we need to make sure that we take care of our skin and our whatever. So we have like all of these different routines and make sure that if you have, like, for example, I have endometriosis, right? And sometimes I'm just saying like all the things that you need to do is like you make sure you need to eat this and you make sure that you need to rest and but at the same time that you rest, you need to make sure that you do this and you do that. And it's like, I'm exhausted just thinking about the list of things that I have to do that I
Hmm.
feel is also putting pressure on us. And then our
Hmm.
nutrition goes out of the window because I feel we feel too overwhelmed. I
Yep.
don't know if that,
No, it makes sense. The overwhelm that we feel and it's almost like we want to be perfect. And then because
yeah,
we want to be perfect with our skin, with our hair, with our body, it prevents us from even starting, because we're like, if I'm not going to do it perfectly, how can I even start? And we really focus on
yeah.
perfection versus what we should be focusing on as consistency, or what I talk about with my clients, better over best.
Mm,
So what's really about like, what is the smallest thing that I can do? And then can I compound from there? Because right now, if you feel like it's so overwhelming, I get that it is overwhelming. But what if we just start with one thing? What if it's just meal prepping your breakfast? Like, well, Casey, but if I meal prep for breakfast, I'm still my lunch and dinners aren't great. And so I'm like, okay, that's better than not doing that. And then once you make that positive change and you do that and you stick with it, then you build the confidence in yourself
yeah.
and the motivation to continue.
I mean, it's just something as simple, right? As like prepare everything, like spending a Sunday preparing your food,
Yep.
and then that's it. You
Hmm.
don't really need to think about, oh, I only have like 30 minutes to eat, but I need to cook my lunch. What am I going to have? And you just have like the first thing that is in there, and then it's not enough. And then you're hungry later. And then yeah, what's there? The chocolate, and you start eating chocolate or whatever. That it
Exactly.
might be not the best option. I mean, I know about the food prep, to be honest, because as I said, when I was doing bodybuilding, I had to prep my food. But I just feel like so lazy after that. And I'm like, how? If I used to do
Hmm.
this, why is it not part of me anymore? What has changed? What happened?
Well, part of it is also because you are comparing yourself to that old standard. And what
Yeah.
if you made peace with the fact that that's an old version of you and you honor the fact that that was the old version bodybuilding part of you, but that's not the phase of life you're in now? And that doesn't mean that you're failing or not doing good enough. It just means that this is a different and a new season for you. And so reshaping what that is versus, oh, I'm not as shredded as I was during that, or I'm not prepping everything. It's like, no, we can make peace with that. Like, great, you did that. That's amazing. But that's not what you're doing right now. And how can we find a new, more balanced, probably relationship with food and be able to
Mm,
make peace with that and build confidence in your body and in your
yeah.
mind that you can do that and really restore that inner trust?
Yeah. Because I feel like as well, as we get older, our metabolism changes, right?
Hmm.
Like we cannot eat exactly the same way that we ate in our early 20s. And I feel like we know this, but we don't know this. Or like we know this, but our brain doesn't processes it. And I think we
Hmm.
keep comparing ourselves with younger versions of us,
Hmm.
and maybe we don't know how to, as you said, like adapt our nutrition or our relationship with food in that respect. So
Hmm.
what would you tell to women that are one of those situations?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of us look back, oh, pictures of, oh, should look like how I high school. No, you have built such a different, amazing life for yourself. And we need to really, as cheesy as it sounds, we need to focus on what this body has now allowed us to achieve, whether it's certain things in our career, whether it's we've become mothers, whether it's we've done, I'm sure there's a million things you can name that you have been able to do with this body. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that you can just or you should just say, okay, I've done such great things now, I shouldn't care about it. But I also find that a lot of people just say, okay, well, my metabolism, it gets shot once you turn 30 or 40 or whatever. But that is not true. We have to be more cognizant of our nutrition and our fitness in order to really achieve what we want to achieve and maintain what we want to maintain, but it is by no means impossible. And it does not mean that you have to throw your life away in the gym or prepping food in little containers. Um, but the truth is that I'm sure your overall life looks a lot different than it did in, if we're
Mm,
comparing to our 20s. And that's a beautiful thing. And it's going to be a constant fight, with your life, and you're going to constantly feel unfulfilled if you're comparing it to your old self or what you used to do or what you used to look like. How can we reframe the fact that you actually just get to be the best version of yourself now? And then also think about, okay, maybe I was that way, but I was dieting and restricting and being really obsessive back then. And I don't want to be that. How can I actually find joy and pleasure in food and find balance? Or yes, I was able to do that, but back then had time to run, an hour a day. And I know what it eventually did for my hormones by running, 2 hours, a day, whatever it may be. Right.
yeah.
Um, so it's going to obviously be highly individualized, but it actually gives us a really great opportunity to dig deeper into ourselves and what our greater purpose is.
Yeah, and I think it's a very healing process trying to just go and accept where we are now.
Hmm.
I think it's really hard for many people. And I think especially for us, we say like type A women, it's really hard to accept where you are, because I feel like sometimes we feel as it's like we're not good enough. We need to do more
Hmm.
and achieve more. And
Hmm.
it that is hard.
Hmm.
But what would you say? Like, I know that some women get really stressed and, as you say, like overwhelmed, and that leads sometimes to binge eating and just
Hmm.
like eating a lot in the meantime.
Hmm.
When they have like that stress period of being overwhelmed, what would be the first step that they should take?
First off, there's various levels of binge eating. True binge eating is an eating disorder, and it's
Hmm.
very, very severe in terms of the quantities of food during a specific duration of time. A lot of people label themselves as binge eating, and they're not really binge eating. And I truly believe, and the science proves how much power our words have. Maybe you are overeating. I work with a lot of women who do overeat and they feel like succumb to urges. Normally, what I find is it has two roots, which is what I work on all the time. It's the psychology and the nutritional components, the biology components. So usually they're not eating enough earlier in the day. And that's why they always break down, because they're not eating enough earlier in the day. They're like skipping breakfast or having not enough for breakfast, which is setting their blood sugar up to go on a roller coaster, which is going to create a hormonal cascade and all these cravings later in the day. Like, well, I wake up not hungry. Well, that's a sign that your hormones are not in a great place. So
Mhm.
you should be having breakfast within an hour of waking, and it should be a significant breakfast. If you are not hungry first thing in the morning, try something small. I promise you, you'll gradually get hungry. That's actually a good sign. And a lot of times also we're not hungry because we're overeating at night. And then we just like, well, I'm not hungry in the morning. So yeah, that's not a great cycle to be in. Giving ourselves enough food at regular intervals. So having breakfast, lunch, a snack, dinner, what that might look different for everyone. And having that
Mhm.
consistency, again, that giving that safety that we talked about earlier with your body. Um, and also realizing that food can be a source of pleasure, satisfaction, and joy, but it cannot and should not be the only source of joy, pleasure, and satisfaction. And so as a result, we need to find proactively other ways that we're bringing that into our life. So if you find that every night is when you're triggered, maybe instead of saying, no, I can't have, the dessert, why don't, but the real problem isn't like maybe having the brownie. The problem is then you have four of the brownies and you feel bad about it. And then you feel
Mhm.
bad about it. And because you feel bad about it, you end up overeating even more because you feel bad
Mhm.
about it. So, what instead, can we maybe have one brownie and put it on a plate and actually sit and allow ourselves to enjoy it and then habit stack that with something else, like going and calling a friend or having a meaning conversation and snuggling with our partner or knitting or journaling or meditating or going for a walk or drinking some tea? How can we then do something that is fulfilling emotionally as well as that kind of physical component of
Mhm.
having that. And then that creates a bit of space. The biggest thing we need to do in the beginning is to create space and acknowledgement. When we can create space between the automatic I'm hungry or the automatic I'm triggered, eat something, eat, then we can slowly build more and more space. And when we build more and more space is when we can actually create true habit change.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Yes. I mean, one of the things that you said, like you just want to eat something and instead of eating one brownie, you eat the whole box. I mean, I'm guilty of that sometimes. Like, it just, and it used to be because I'm allergic to dairy. So it
Okay.
didn't really I was not able to have a lot of like sweet stuff because majority of things had dairy in it. So whenever I found something that was dairy free, like dairy free chocolate chip cookies or something like that, I
Mm-hmm.
would be like, oh, I'll have one. No, I had to have the whole box, and then
Mm-hmm.
I felt really guilty about all of that. And I think that in a way has got me into a habit of like whenever I get like some type
Mm-hmm.
of dessert,
Mm-hmm.
I do that. Um, and I don't know how to stop that in my mind. I know it's just like I can get that out more often. It's not like a one in 3 months or something like that I'm going to be able to get it because now there is more choices in supermarkets, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I still have, I don't know, that mindset stayed with me and it's horrible.
Yeah. I mean, what sounds to me is probably like a little bit of the forbidden fruit effect. Like, you know, you can't have something and then so you just want it more. And that's kind of that scarcity brain going on autopilot. That's our paleolithic brain, our primal brain. And so what we would want to work on is really understanding the higher versus the lower brain. The higher brain is the prefrontal cortex. That's like the rational brain. And then we have the lower brain. That's the more primal brain that is really trying to like lead to that urge with food, like the compulsion. So it's not about like saying, okay, I'm creating more rules. Because when you create more rules, you're going to want to rebel. You think about a
Mm.
kid in a room full of toys, and they have a million toys they can play with, and you say, you just can't play with this elephant toy, whatever. Of course, that's all they're going to want to play with. And so for you, because you can't have dairy, right? It makes it so that when it's like, I can't, even if it's like an actual, biological, need, food sensitivity, whatever it may be, that will then lead you to be on high alert for when it isn't there. So we'd have to work on some like nervous system regulation and safety around food. Doesn't mean that I'm going to force feed you dairy to eat, so you're inflamed, but working it in a way that makes you feel more safe with the food and more comfortable around it and not get this like heightened urge. Cause I know what it feels like. It's almost like hot and it's like bumping in your chest. You're like, I
Yeah.
finally get it. And then you get it and then you feel like you can't control yourself around it. So it's about almost some like conditioning with the food itself and really
Mhm.
kind of digging deeper into what are the preconceived notions you have with food? What are the overall um, triggers that you have? What are the rules that you have? And reframing and shaping those.
Okay. Do you think like any of the attitude that we have towards food or like the thoughts that we have towards food, do they come from when we were little and what we've seen, or that changes as we get older?
Absolutely. If we were told to clean our plate, and that will absolutely condition us to think that that is good. Almost this idea of like completeness of like, if you did it all and always got the A plus, like you're gonna want to complete also completing the plate, right? Also, and I've worked with clients who have had like food scarcity. So they grow up and having, food insecurity, and that leads them to also potentially overeat or feel like they shouldn't leave anything on the plate, especially if they're going out to eat, or dieting rules that we have because our mothers or our fathers said certain things or comments about our body led us to then eat in secret or feel ashamed.
Mm.
That absolutely contributes to the shame and the guilt that we feel around food, and therefore affects our eating behaviors, how we perceive food, and how we eat, like literally eat it as a result.
Yeah. I was just thinking, like how much the way that we are raised and brought up really, have an effect on how
Yeah.
we are around food. And I guess, yeah, like it makes sense. Especially what you said, right? If your parents or your family were making, or friends at school or whatever were making comments about your body, and you were eating you know, in hiding,
Hmm.
then obviously that's gonna be something that you're gonna be unconsciously keep doing. So can you explain us a little bit more about like what holistic nutrition is exactly and how it differentiates from a regular nutritionist?
Yeah. So people take the word holistic and can make it mean different things in terms of how I apply it with my practice and in terms of the education that I, spent years receiving. Um, it's more functional. So it's based on a holistic perspective and you taking you as the whole person. So versus just nutrition science of just like calories in versus calories out, macros, or even micronutrients, it's really focusing on you as the person, because what I have found from my personal experience and from years of working with clients is you can know every nutrition fact in the world. But at the end of the day, the reason why you may overeat the dairy free chocolate or the cakes, the cookies, the chips, whatever it may be, is because of a deeper root. And so just learning more and more about nutrition, which is what I was doing. I was reading every book, every blog, listening to every single thing I could, but I was still feeling more and more uncomfortable in my body, still more and more obsessed with food, more stressed about it, gaining weight. It's because our traditional paradigm when it comes to nutrition is just focused on just the nutrition versus the mindset and the psychology and the brain science. And so, what I work on is, again, the really understanding how hunger comes from brain, heart, and body hunger, and how that is affected by our biology and our psychology, and just like our habits and habit science. And so, when we work holistically on the person, working on the root cause of their eating behaviors versus just the symptom, that's where we can make lasting change.
Yeah, yeah, and it makes sense within your practice and what you have seen. Like after being having a better relationship with food, or like going through your practice and all of the steps that you work with them, is the perception of how they look changes, or the body dysmorphia is always going to be there, but we're just going to feel more comfortable in what we see?
Yeah, it absolutely does adjust in terms of appreciation for your body. Now, I work most of the women I who come to me do want to lose weight, but that will change as we not change in terms of they won't want to lose weight, but change in terms of them seeing other metrics of success, and also just like appreciation for their body, and therefore it makes the journey more enjoyable and sustainable. So we're able to actually get to where they want to go in a way that is more helpful for the short and long term.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. And so we've talked before about the journal, the mood journal
Mhm.
that they start with. Um, what will be the next step after that? What do you usually do? Do you analyze that mood journal, or how does that work? What is the process?
So when I work with clients, they do submit to me before our first session so that we can really hit the ground running.
Okay.
A full diet diary, but it's not a full food mood journal because I'm the one that's going in and really dissecting and then giving them the feedback from there. What I would say with your own food mood journal is to do it and then look back at patterns. I want you to do it and at first do it without trying to change anything or really trying to like make insights first, just doing it and then going back and seeing the patterns of behaviors. And then from there, we're looking at what were potentially the triggers, what are the patterns you see, what times of day are you eating or not eating. And then from there, we can really build on consistency on all levels.
Okay. Because I just feel like it's so hard when you see the patterns and it's like, how do I stop doing this?
Mhm.
Like, have you had any situation that has been like really, really hard to get out of those patterns? And how did you solve that situation? Because I feel I will be one of those that is just like, this is not, I can't do this.
I mean, that is why I hired someone to work with them, and that's why people hire me. What I will say so many times as women, especially with the whole conversation here, we're talking about high achieving women. A lot of times we think that we have to figure out on our own, and we're just causing more problem as a result. We're putting more
Hmm.
stress on ourselves, and that more stress is causing us to actually be less healthy. So maybe it's therapy, maybe it is working with a nutritionist, maybe it's joining some type of group program, but putting more of that pressure on yourself is not serving you.
You're right. Type A, high achieving women, we always feel like we need to solve everything on ourselves. And then we just feel like maybe, as you said, like working with someone is just putting too much burden on them and it's just going to be too much. Um, and then you've mentioned like maybe joining like a group or something like that. I feel, and I don't know if that is maybe me, maybe like all of our listeners, let me know if this has happened to you as well. But I feel like it's so weird to go and join a group because I feel like I wouldn't get anything out of being in a group. I
Some
don't know
people,
if
I don't do big group coaching. So that's not for me. And like, especially since it's so personalized what I do. Some people do like it. Some people really want to share in a group.
yeah.
It can be really helpful for people and to be able to share and then therefore not feel that shame. Because a lot of what we're talking about with food is this internalized shame. And that's why also, even if it's just with one person, like a coach that you're working with, it makes such a difference to release some of that shame and guilt by just telling someone else and having someone to help you and realizing that you also deserve that help. The very action of reaching out to someone or joining that group or whatever it may be helps release that shame because that shame guilt cycle is perpetuating you overeating. It's perpetuating
Mhm.
you having these behaviors of self sabotage.
Yeah. Do you feel also maybe the reason why maybe they don't look for help or we get into this type of cycle that it never ends? Is it because we have less patience and because we're used to control everything? We want things to happen faster or at a
Mm-hmm.
certain speed?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of how we've approached things in the past, and kind of like I was talking about with dieting, you're like, well, I've worked, but if it worked, you would be able to stick with it. And we're always looking for fast fixes, but then the fast fixes lead us to stop and start. And so once you lodge, it took me a while, but once I logically understood that the stopping and starting and trying to, I would always say, I'll lose the weight. And then once I do, then I'll be normal with food. But the way
Mhm.
that you approach is how the way you should want to live the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to count calories and carbs forever, then that's not how you should lose the weight.
Yeah.
Um, so obviously there's going to be certain things during like a potentially weight loss or recalibration of health phase versus a maintenance, but it should generally be how you want to live the rest of your life. And you need to be honest with yourself about that.
And you just mentioned quick fixes,
Yeah.
and something came to mind, the GLP-1s.
Yeah.
People wanting those really fixed fast, get into the weight that they wanted. And I guess maybe some people after that might go to a holistic nutritionist to be able to just keep it. But the majority of them, they don't, and then
Hmm.
they obviously put the way back. Um, have you worked with anybody that has gone through that journey and or everybody that you work on is 100% like no help, you know what I mean? Like not
Yeah,
quick
I
help.
totally work with women taking GLP-1s. They come to me because they really have realized that they got to that place and it's more than just a calories in versus calories out situation. And so I love working with women that are taking these medications who want to do it the right way. Unfortunately, most people are being prescribed dosages that are way too high and they're vastly under eating it. So they're losing
Mhm.
weight way too fast. They're losing a lot of muscle. It's detrimental for their long term health. And they can't ever get off of them because they haven't actually done anything in terms of their mindset with food
Mhm.
and relationship with food. And if so, they do get off and they gain all the weight back or more. So when I work with clients, we work on a way so that they're able to take the lowest dosage possible while still getting effective results. And it allows them to feel more satisfied and reduce that food noise. So we can work on really reestablishing that relationship with food and they can have success on and off the medication.
Yeah, because I guess it will be really annoying to having to go through all the process, like the injections and everything like that, and be happy for a certain amount of months, and then suddenly
Yeah.
putting the weight back, and would be very, very, very frustrating. So yeah, it's very important to make sure that you keep up with it, and as you said, right, like so many people get put in a very, very high dose. Then how do you go back to a maintenance level that is not going to suddenly like make you jump too much in weight?
Yeah. It's hard. If someone came to me with it already on a very high dose, we would obviously, they would have, I would suggest in terms of them working with their prescriber to
Mhm.
titrate down as we are working on nutrition. And that doesn't mean completely getting off, but it also depends on what their goals are. If they want to stay on that, like that's also not me for me to completely decide. They're coming to
Mhm.
me with what they might be like, I want to go on a lower dose. I want to get off this medication. And then that's how we can work on it from there.
If anybody wants to work with you, how can they find you? What are usually are the first steps that they need to take
Yeah.
in order for you to take them as clients?
Yeah. So I am your case for wellness on Instagram. It's like play on Casey, if you couldn't tell. And feel free or please, just follow me, message me, say hi, ask me your questions. I love directly connecting with my audience. So please do. And then if you're interested in working with me, I have an application form where you can fill out. And from there, the next step would be to book a discovery call. And that allows us to meet face to face. I want to make sure that's a good fit on both ends because we work very, very much deep in the weeds together. So I can really
Mhm.
support you. The one on one coaching I do isn't just like you submit a check in form, you get message, we're texting, I'm voice noting you, you have your weekly check ins, we're doing our video calls. It is very much me supporting you, holding you accountable every step of the way. So we need to make sure it's a good fit. So I have our discovery call. And you can also just book a discovery call directly too if you kind of are like, I'm ready there. And I can provide the links for that for you all and would love to support you in your journey to get healthier, to get happier, and doing it in a way that you can actually sustain for the rest of your life.
Amazing. That's great. That's really great. Everybody make sure that you follow Casey, that you just, if you're having thoughts about like how can I be more consistent with the way that I eat and have a better relationship with food, make sure that you check her out and then just go to ChatGPT or AI and put in your information and just see what plan that AI gets for you. Because as we've been talking all day today, one size doesn't fit all,
Yeah,
and you need to make sure that you know exactly what triggers you. And Casey knows exactly how to guide you to make sure that the changes that you make today are for life and not just for a short period of your life.
absolutely. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for having me.
Yeah, so thank you so much for being on the podcast, and thank you everybody for listening to the first episode of season 7 with our guest Casey Wells. See
Hi.
you soon in another episode.
Bye bye.